Type 2 questions. ठीक है, one of the question is already written in front of you. The Kc value is given, and you're supposed to figure out the equilibrium concentration. The initial moles are also provided, and they actually gave you the Kc value. So what you're trying to do now is you're not trying to calculate Kc. The Kc value is already given. So it's exactly the same table that you're going to make. Everything would be exactly the same, but everything would be happening in reverse. So you have H2 and I2 reacting, and these things are in equilibrium with HI. So they're in equilibrium with 2HI. Let's say that reaction is already given in the question. Now, you have your initial moles. Okay, so you've got your initial moles. The initial moles are 0.2 moles of H2 and I2, so that's 0.2 moles of this. And you have 0.2 moles of this as well. And you have 0.4 moles of HI. ठीक है, वो भी यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है कि 0.4 moles of HI, so you got that as well. And that's it. You just have initial moles, and they just gave you the value of Kc. That's about it. The value of Kc is given as 2.2 and nothing else. So how would you figure out the equilibrium concentration? So that's the whole question. Now to complete the table, previously we had all of this. We had the initial moles, we had the equilibrium moles, and in the middle you had the reaction going on. So now we don't have any other information. I don't know what happened after this. When I added the initial moles, what happened and how many moles are present at equilibrium? That's the question. So we're going to make some assumptions. Now, I've added 0.2 moles and 0.2 moles of this and 0.4 moles of this. Now, there must have been a reaction after I've added all of them. There must have been some forward reaction. If there was some forward reaction, the amount of H2 and I2 would decrease and the amount of HI would increase. Or maybe the equilibrium shifted to the left side. That means some of the HI probably got used up and I2 and H2 were produced. Now I have no idea where the equilibrium shifted once I mix them together. So at the moment, I have no idea. So I'm just going to make an assumption. I'm going to make an assumption and I'm going to say that X moles reacted. So that's just one random assumption that I've made. So that's just one random assumption that I've made, that I'm saying that X moles have reacted. I don't know what the quantity is, but it's just an assumption that X moles have reacted. So if X moles of H2 have reacted, since it's 1:1, that means X moles of I2 would have reacted along with it because it's 1:1. And if 1 reacts with 1, it produces 2 HI. So that means according to the ratio, on the other side, 2X moles would have been produced. They would have been produced. So I had no idea whether the reaction was going forward or was it going backward. Absolutely no idea. So I just made this random assumption that X moles reacted because I don't know what happened to these 0.2 moles. I have no idea. So X moles reacted and they're going to react with X moles of this. And on the other side, they're going to produce 2 X moles. So what are your equilibrium moles in terms of X? So out of 0.2, X moles have reacted. So you're left with 0.2 minus X moles. क्योंकि यहाँ पे 0.2 थे and now X moles are gone. They've reacted, so you're left with 0.2 minus X. You had 0.2 moles and X moles are gone. They've reacted, so you're left with 0.2 minus X moles. और इस साइड पे ज्यादा हो गए, ठीक है, they've increased. 2X moles got produced. So you had 0.4 moles initially, right at the beginning. an extra 2x moles got produced. So your equilibrium moles are going to be 0.4 plus 2x moles. So I have my equilibrium moles in terms of x. Is this clear so far? Ye clear hai? Alicia, is this clear? Mahad, Oswa, is this clear? Reed, clear hai?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just remember, I added these moles. I had no idea whether the reaction was going forward or backward. हो सकता था कि थोड़े से ये react हो जाए, or maybe the reaction went backwards. 0.4 के amount कम हो जाती and 0.2 the amount would increase. ठीक है, but I've at the moment no idea. So I just made.
Sir.
हाँ जी.
सर ये 0.4 minus 2x नहीं होगा
कितने?
0.2 minus x है तो 0.4 plus 2x कैसे?
नहीं वो देखो ना, मैंने कहा था यहाँ पे अगर रिएक्ट होंगे तो यहाँ पे खत्म हो गए ना एक्समोल्स. एक्समोल रिएक्ट में एक्समोल्स के साथ 1:1 है ना, तो दूसरी साइड पे क्या होगा, 2 एक्समोल्स प्रोड्यूस होंगे ना. तो जब एक साइड पे नहीं वो सुनो 2 एक्समोल. हाँ
सर हमें ये भी नहीं पता कि वो इक्विलिब्रियम किस साइड पर शिफ्ट हो रहा है.
तो वो बस assumption है, अभी अभी हमें कुछ भी नहीं पता. होस्ट मतलब ये पहले तो ये क्लियर है कि यहाँ पे 0.4 प्लस 2x होंगे बिकॉज 2x मोल्स ज्यादा होंगे.
यस
ठीक है, तो मैं दिस इज जस्ट एन assumption. मैं खुद अज्यूम कर रहा हूँ कि लेट्स से वो फॉरवर्ड किया, वो x की वैल्यू जब आएगी ना वो खुद ही सही हो जाएगा. कि वो देख लेना कि x की वैल्यू का जो साइन आएगा और जब हम x की वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करेंगे ना वो डिसाइड करेगा किस साइड पे जाएगा. अभी तो मैंने वैसे अज्यूम किया, आई एम जस्ट अज्यूमिंग कि इट्स गोइंग इन द फॉरवर्ड डायरेक्शन. ठीक है, इज ये क्लियर है?
यस सर.
अच्छा, वो ये जो assumption है ना ये गलत भी हो सकती है लेकिन वो खुद ही सही हो जाएगी क्योंकि वो x की वैल्यू वो ऑटोमेटिकली ना वो 2x की बजाय x की वैल्यू नेगेटिव में आई तो इट्स गोइंग टू बी -2x, तो वो फिर ऑटोमेटिकली माइनस हो जाएगा. ठीक है, ये प्लस माइनस में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा बिकॉज इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट द साइन ऑफ द x इज. ठीक है, और अगर माइनस आएगी तो ये ऑटोमेटिकली प्लस में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा माइनस, और फिर -x मतलब x कम्स आउट टू बी नेगेटिव तो इट वुड ऑटोमेटिकली बिकम positive. Achha, but the thing is we figured out the moles, equilibrium moles, but in terms of x. So I have the value of Kc. I'm going to put these moles in my expression for Kc, which is product concentration, which in this case is the HI concentration. It's going to be squared. And we're going to divide that by the reactant concentration, which in this case is H2 and I2. अच्छा, जब terms बराबर हो ऊपर नीचे, numerator terms and denominator terms are the same, you don't have to find concentration क्योंकि वो concentration निकालने के लिए you would have to divide by volume, but the volume part would automatically get cancelled out. ठीक है, concentration is moles over volume, the amount of particles per unit volume, but you don't have to do that because numerator denominator they're equal number of terms. So the volume part would automatically get cancelled out. So I'm going to put the moles directly into it. It's going to be 0.4 plus 2x. And that's going to be squared. Okay, that's HI. And the whole thing would be divided by 0.2 minus x. That's H2 and 0.2 minus x, that's I2. And the value of this is already known, that's 2. So that's 2.2. So all you have to do now is you have to solve for x. What I can do is it's 0.2 minus x into 0.2 minus x, so this is squared. So what I can just write it as squared. Do the aage. And I can try and solve this. What I can do is I can take the under root of this. And dono sides pe, I'm going to take the under root. So the square would get cancelled out. Okay, the square would get cancelled out by the under root. So it would be 0.4 plus 2x divided by, jab under root loge, the square gets cancelled out. Okay, and it would be 0.2 minus x. And this thing has a value of 2.2 under root. अच्छा 0.2 minus x को दूसरी साइड पे ले जाते हैं. ठीक है, so I'm going to bring this to the other side, so this will get cancelled out, and 0.2 minus x. I'm going to open this bracket. This would be 2.2 under root into 0.2, and the other one would be minus में होगा, minus x into, so it would be minus 2.2 under root x, और ये सारा किसके इक्वल है? 0.4 plus 2x. It's going to be equal to 0.4. अच्छा, it's going to be equal to 0.4 plus 2x. 2x वाली टर्म्स जो है वो इकट्ठे कर लेते हैं, so it's going to be 0.4. Let's keep it on this side, and minus 2.2 under root times 0.2, और दूसरी साइड पे you will have 2x, so it will become minus 2x. So it will become minus 2x to the other side, and minus 2.2 under root x. I'm going to take x as common. पहले तो माइनस साइन को खत्म कर देते हैं. I'll take this as plus. This would become minus. हाँ जी.
सर हमारे पास जो स्क्वायर रूट जब हमने लिया तो दोनों साइड पे जो स्क्वायर था उसे कैंसिल कर दिया और स्क्वायर रूट आ गया. तो हमारे पास जब ये नीचे वाला 0.2 माइनस एक्स कैंसिल हो रहा है तो वो ऊपर जाके कैसे मतलब मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है?
नहीं, कहाँ पे 0.2 कैंसिल हो रहा है?
0.2 माइनस एक्स जस्ट बिलो 0.4.
नहीं, ये तो मैथ है कि 0.2 माइनस एक्स को दूसरी साइड पे लेके जाओगे तो क्या होता है.
ओके ओके.
ठीक है. अच्छा, अब ये कि यहाँ तक पहुंचे, इसको सॉल्व कर लो कि टेक x एज कॉमन, तो x would be 2 plus 2.2 under root, right? और यहाँ पे क्या होगा? It's going to be minus 0.4 plus 2.2 under root times 0.2. अच्छा, hopefully मैंने math just double check के did I do the math correctly or not. And the final thing is I'm going to cancel this. इसको I'll take it to the other side, so it's going to be divided by this thing, and this thing would become what? 2 plus 2.2 under root divided by 2 plus 2.2 under root. So that is what my x is. But I've finally figured out how to solve this. Okay, so I've figured this out. I've figured out what x is. एक चीज का ख्याल रखना है, and that is, remember this, under root can have two values. When you under root two things, you get two values. It's got two values. One is plus and the other one is minus. If you take the under root of 4, so it's going to have two values. It's going to be plus 2 and it's going to be minus 2. Okay? So make sure, this expression that you're getting, it's going to have two values as well. So I'm just going to copy this expression. There are going to be two expressions. There's going to be a positive 2.2 under root and there's going to be a negative 2.2 under root. Just like under root karoge na, two values aayenge. Both of them would be the same value, except that their signs are going to be different. So when you take this expression for x, there would actually be two values of x. So if I take this other one, so what will happen is this, instead of this being plus, this would actually be minus, because you could have 2.2 under root and that could be a negative value as well. And the same thing over here, instead of this being plus, this could actually be minus as well. So you're going to get two values of x. So I'm going to call this one x2 and I'm going to call this one as x1. So you got to be careful about this. Is this clear? You clear? Yes or no?
सर
हाँ जी.
Yes, sir.
सर इसके अंदर हमारे पास प्लस प्लस में भी मतलब ये सारे इक्वेशन आएगा और माइनस के अंदर भी।
हाँ, क्योंकि जब देखो जब आप अंडर रूट लेते हो ना दिस थिंग, या तो शुरू से लेके चलते हैं कि जब whenever you take under root of something is either plus or minus. I mean, when you take under root of 2.2, it will have two signs. It's either going to be plus or it's going to be minus. It's now 4 under root is going to be plus 2 or it's going to be minus 2 as well. Is this clear?
यस।
So, so make sure you remember this. Okay, you would have to solve two equations, not one. Okay, I mean, you can either start saying you can solve two equations. One with plus 2.2 under root and the other one with minus 2.2 under root. या फिर एंड में बना लो, उसके बाद उसको कॉपी पेस्ट करो, बट just take plus 2.2 under root and change it to minus 2.2 under root. ठीक है, तो they're going to be, ठीक है, so at the end of the day they're going to be two expressions. One is this one and the other one is this one. Can anyone solve this and tell me what the value is for x1 and x2? And remember, people make a lot of mistakes solving this, especially the ones that don't take math. Well, it's simple algebra, but they still make a lot of mistakes, especially with the signs. कोई मुझे पहले का बता दे कि has anyone solved the first one, x1, this one? किसी ने निकाला है? अलीशा, रईद, anyone? चलो एक आंसर है. That's a minus 0.0297. So I'm assuming that's the first one, minus 0.0297. ठीक है. What about the second one? So x2 is minus 1.34. So x2 comes out to be minus 1.34. Now the big question is, you got two values now. One of them is incorrect. Okay, you got minus 0.0297, you got minus 1.34. Go back to your table now and plug in those values.
सेकंड का आंसर है 0.24
कौन सा? सेकंड वाले का?
जी सर, जिसमें माइनस अंडर रूट था.
एक सेकंड में यहाँ पे पहले चल जाऊँ. ये वाला कह रहे हो x2 का माइनस कितना आ रहा है?
सर माइनस नहीं, इसका आंसर आ रहा है 0.235.
नहीं, किसका आंसर आ रहा है? x2 का आ रहा है ना?
जी सर.
0.235.
जी सर.
तो ठीक है, यहीं से वो स्टार्ट हो गया. मेक श्योर यू डू योर कैलकुलेशंस प्रॉपर्ली. somebody else
सर
has.
माइनस में आंसर नहीं आ रहा.
हाँ,
और सर माइनस में आंसर नहीं आ रहा.
x2 का?
जी.
ठीक है, मतलब चेक करना पड़ेगा अभी, क्योंकि we've gotten two values. ठीक है, somebody has made a.
जी सर, मैं दूसरे वाले के भी करती हूँ.
नहीं, इसका दोबारा कर लो, क्योंकि दो लोगों का माइनस 1.34 या 1.35 आ गया, मतलब बेस्ड ऑन वोटिंग. ठीक है, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू डू दिस. somebody check this के दो लोगों का ये है, इसको दोबारा करो. मेक श्योर कैलकुलेटर के ऊपर, let's say bring a calculator. अच्छा, my desktop calculator is pretty bad, तो brackets यूज करो कैलकुलेटर में. So I'm just going to do this. क्या है? माइनस 0.4. ठीक है, फिर माइनस, इस पूरी चीज को ब्रैकेट में डालो.
जी सर, माइनस 1.34 ही आ रहा है. ठीक है, तो
ठीक
पहले
है,
मैंने वो मल्टीप्लाई का साइन लगा दिया.
चलो ठीक है. मतलब वही इसमें ना, you have to be very careful because even if you solve the question, if you're bad with math or या फिर calculator में मसला है या science के अंदर you did a mistake, some silly mistake, ठीक है, there's a lot of chance of doing that silly mistake. So make sure you double check your values every time. खास तौर पे बल्कि make sure you double check your values every time there's a lot of plus and subtraction and division happening. Be very careful. उसको 2-3 दफा उसको go through करो. ठीक है, But the simple calculations, less chances of mistake. Any calculation which is similar to this, plenty of chances of making silly mistakes. Okay. Or I think the first one. Siddharth, did you do the first one? So I'm just assuming the first one is also correct. Okay. It looks correct.
Yes, sir, it's correct.
So okay. I say you got two values, minus 1.34 and minus 0.02797. This value over here, this one over here, this is the wrong value. And how did I figure out that this one is the wrong value? And this is the correct value. This one, जिसको मैं circle कर रहा हूं, that's my correct value. ठीक है? और ये वाली जो है ये गलत है. ठीक है? So that's my incorrect value. So how did I figure this out? The way I figure this out is कि मैं वापस गया and I have my equilibrium moles. Now I'll just, get rid of the volume part. So now I have my equilibrium moles. This could be थोड़ा. One second. So now I have my equilibrium moles. So how did I figure out that minus 1.34 is the wrong value? So the way I figure this out is if I place minus 1.34 over here, so it's 0.4 plus 2 into minus 1.34. Okay, if I place it in this x over here, I'm going to get an answer without doing the calculation. I would know that I'm going to get an answer in negative, right? So, is this clear? 0.4 plus 2 into minus 1.34. So that's obviously a value in negative, some value in negative. You can do the calculation, but it's going to come out to be in negative, right? Now, the thing is, your moles can never be negative.
Sir, it's 2 point.
नहीं, लेकिन negative में ना?
G sir, minus 2.2.
Achha, so it's coming out to be in negative. Remember, moles can never be in negative. Moles क्या? You're counting something, ठीक है? So, for example, like basket में there are apples. You're counting it. It's always going to be a positive value. It's either going to be 0 apples, it's either going to be 1 apple, or it's going to be 5 apples. The basket is never going to have minus 20 apples. Okay, that doesn't make sense. The moles, that's a number. Ke kitne atoms are aapke paas, how many particles you've got. So either you have particles or you don't have particles. You never have particles in negative. Okay, remember, moles in negative. The x can be in negative. There's no issue. There's nothing wrong with x being in negative. Because x are not the moles. 0.2 minus x are the moles. Okay? So your moles can never be a negative value. Okay? The minimum moles you can always have is 0 moles. You can never have moles in negative. Just like basket mein apples hai, you can never have minus 5 apples. That doesn't make any sense. Okay? So isliye we figured out that this 1.34 value minus 1.34 value is the wrong value. Okay? That can't be the correct value. So इसमें एक point लिख लेना. The way you eliminate the value is that moles can never be negative. And इसके अंदर भी ना, make sure you remember the difference. X can be negative, but वो जब x substitute करोगे ना, the thing that you get should never be negative. So what was the other number? Is this part clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, अब ये कि मोल्स कैन नेवर बी नेगेटिव, वो कहानी तो खत्म हो गई. तो दूसरी वैल्यू आप प्लेस कर दो कि minus 1.34, तो उससे तो काम नहीं चल रहा. The other one was, I think, 0.0297. So can you place 0.0297 over here? What do you get? That would be a positive value for all of them, I think. 0.2 or minus 0.0297 है. ठीक है, हमने क्या वैल्यू कैलकुलेट की थी? It was minus 0.0297. ठीक है. So it is minus 0.0297. This one would be exactly the same. कोई मुझे बता दे क्या वैल्यू आ रही है. And this one would be 0.4.
0.703.
0 point?
0.1703.
यानी your moles are positive, ठीक है? This one would be exactly the same 0.170. और फिर लास्ट वाले के कितने हैं? 0.4 + 2 into -0.0297.
सर
हाँ जी,
सर यहाँ पे जो 0
एक
सर
से
यहाँ पे जो 0.2 माइनस एक्स लिखा है
हाँ
इसको जब हमारा आंसर माइनस में आ रहा है तो क्या ये माइनस माइनस नहीं होगा या एग्जैक्टली ऐसे ही रहेगा?
हाँ हाँ ये माइनस, वो बात सही कर रहा है। ये हमने गलत किया कि हमारा आंसर तो -0.0297 था, तो इट्स -x, so it's going to become plus. But is this clear? ठीक है, बिल्कुल सही है। ये हमने गलत किया यहाँ पे। Remember,
सर वो प्लस
ये क्लियर है, प्लस हो जाएगा ना, क्योंकि x की वैल्यू इज इन नेगेटिव, ठीक है? -0.0297, so 0.2 minus -0.0297 would actually be plus, ठीक है? Remember silly mistakes, ठीक है? Make sure पूरा क्वेश्चन basically this very bright chances of actually making silly mistakes है। तो ये हमने गलत किया हुआ था इनमें, और इधर तो हमको भी गलती नहीं।
0.2297.
ठीक है, now it's 0.222297, and this one would be 0.2297, और यहाँ पे क्या होगा? It's going to be, इसका बता दो, ये मेरे ख्याल से ठीक किया है।
सर 0.3406.
तो 0.3406 moles, ठीक है? So you figured out your equilibrium moles. After all this calculation, you've been able to figure out your equilibrium moles. Okay, this is 0.2297 plus वो पहली वाली assumption भी हमारी गलत है कि हमारे x की वैल्यू came out to be negative. इसके moles मैं assume कर रहा था कि वो forward जा रहा है, जबकि the final moles came out तो इसके moles ज्यादा हो गए हैं और इसके moles कम हो गए। तो basically reaction जो है that was going in the backward direction. तो वो x के साइन ने ना खुद ही सब कुछ ठीक कर दिया, ठीक है? So is this clear, this question?
सर कैसे पता चला कि वो रिएक्शन बैकवर्ड जा रहा है?
क्योंकि ये 0.2 थे ना इनिशियली, फाइनल क्या है? 0.2297 आया है, तो these moles ज्यादा हो गए ना, the moles have increased,
ओके सर, ठीक है।
तो इसका मतलब बैकवर्ड चला गया रिएक्शन एक्चुअली, ठीक है? सो तो आपने उसकी टेंशन नहीं लेनी, आप अज्यूम कर लो कि फॉरवर्ड चला गया, वो x की वैल्यू खुद ही ठीक कर देगी, द x वैल्यू वुड कम इन, और वो उसको खुद आपकी assumption को खुद ही ठीक कर देगी। तो this is all this is how you're going to do this question. Is this clear सारों को?
यस सर।
तो इसी के ना, रिमेंबर, और इसके अंदर there's not a lot of variety of questions, it's the same question every time, क्योंकि there's a limitation, उन्होंने कहा है कि they'll only solve quadratic equations, which is why that would limit the equations to these type of equations, simple equations. मतलब वो बहुत weird ratios वाली equations are not going to be क्योंकि वो square से ऊपर चला जाए ना, तो cube root वाली जो equation है, you're not able to solve those. मतलब वो अगर x में ना वो if this is power 3 तो this thing would become cubed, तो वो तो हमारे कोर्स में नहीं है, वो तो मेरे ख्याल से आपके मैथ के कोर्स में भी शायद ना हो, to solve cube root equations. So they'll keep it till square, so the equations would the equations with which you will be dealing with would be very very simple. So इसके we'll do some past paper questions.
सर ये हमेशा होगा कि स्क्वायर रूट की दो ही वैल्यूज आएंगी और उनमें से वो सेलेक्ट करनी है जिसमें हमारा आंसर पॉजिटिव में है।
क्योंकि आपका जो एक्सप्रेशन है ना वो स्क्वायर में ना, तो जब वो x डालोगे ना तो वो बेसिकली क्या कहते हैं उससे, क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन बन जाएगी ना, जब भी स्क्वायर आ जाता है ना, सो इट्स अ क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन, सो देयर वुड ऑलवेज बी टू
तो उस
वैल्यूज।
तरीके से भी तो सॉल्व कर सकते हैं ना इसे, पूरी
किसको?
इक्वेशन बना के।
हाँ, वो उसको उस तरह भी कर सकते हैं, ठीक है?
ठीक है सर।
मतलब उसको you can there are number of ways to solve this, वो -b plus -b minus, मतलब if you open everything and तो उस तरह भी सॉल्व कर सकते हो। अच्छा एक से Where's the KC worksheet? ठीक है, it's the same worksheet. उसी के अंदर ये questions होंगे. Specifically, a lot of questions. हाँ जी.
सर आपने जो मतलब क्वेश्चंस आपने कुछ लिंक्स प्रोवाइड किए हैं केमिकल इक्विलिब्रियम के लिए.
हाँ, वो तो इसी की जो इसी क्लास के लेक्चर्स है ना.
सर वो स्टार्ट से कवर करे सारा कुछ.
हाँ, ठीक है.
Okay.
अच्छा, this one, let's do this one. Okay, there's a mixture, initial moles दिए हुए, and they've given you the value of Kc at 650 kelvins. Well, in the previous part, they gave you the value of Kc, which is 650 kelvins. They gave it as 59. So the Kc value is provided, ठीक है, in the previous part, and the Kc value at 650 kelvins is 59. So you're going to solve this. So I'm going to assume I've added 0.02 moles and 0.02 moles. So it's exactly the same type of question. So I'm going to assume that X moles react. So it's 1:1. So X moles of this would also react. And on the other side, it's 1:1:2. So 2X moles over there would be produced.
तो KC 59 कैसे है?
नहीं, वो उसने पीछे दिया हुआ था previous part में. यहाँ पे ना, for this equilibrium, the numerical value of the equilibrium constant Kc is 140 at 500 kelvins and 59 at 650 kelvins.
सर टेम्परेचर का तो कोई काम नहीं है ना इसमें.
ये टेम्परेचर कोई काम नहीं, लेकिन Kc की वैल्यू सिर्फ एक चीज से चेंज होती है, that is temperature. So you have to be very specific, क्योंकि उसने Kc की दो वैल्यूज दी हुई है ना, तो we have to pick the one at 650 kelvins. ठीक है, क्योंकि वो 650 kelvins पे कह रहा है ना. अच्छा, anyways, equilibrium moles कितने हो गए? It's 0.02 minus x, क्योंकि x react हो गए, and this would also be 0.02 minus x, क्योंकि x moles react हो गए, और इधर शुरू में थे ही नहीं. Now you've got 2x moles getting produced, तो मतलब 2x हो गए. ठीक है, so your Kc expression would be HI concentration squared, so it's going to be 2x squared divided by 0.02 minus x and 0.02 minus x, तो वो भी squared हो जाएगा, and the value is 59. So all you have to do is solve. You've got to solve this. ठीक है, इसको solve करोगे and you'll find the answer. जो भी आएगा, तो this is exactly the same one. या तो under root कर लो दोनों sides को. This would be 59 under root and the square would go away, and it's going to be 2x is equal to 0.02 into 59 under root and minus x into 59. अच्छा, फिर इसको take, I think, x as common, so it's going to be 0.02 times 59 under root and divide by क्या होगा 2 plus 59 under root. And the only thing is there would be two values of x. One would be 59 under root being a positive value, so that would be 0.02 times positive 59 under root, and 2 plus positive 59 under root, and the other expression would be the 59 under root thing would have a negative value. So you'll get two values of x in this, and you'll be able to figure this out. Okay. So this was exactly the same. I'll just do or see if there's this. I mean, this question we did earlier. Just a second. So this one, exactly the same. Okay. It's at 1200 kelvins, so maybe they gave you, so the Kc is given, it's 1.44. So the value of Kc is given, it's 1.44. So again, in this case, I'm going to assume X moles react. And it's 1:1, so X moles of this would also react. And on the other side, well, 1:1 is, so X moles are going to be produced. And X moles of this would also be produced. और बाकी काम करने के this would be 0.5 minus x क्योंकि 0.5 शुरू में थे. Now X moles react, so you're left with 0.5 minus x. This would be 0.5 minus x as well. And यहाँ पे 0.2 थे, X moles are getting produced. So this would be 0.2 plus x, and this would also be 0.2 plus x. अब फिर Kc की expression में put कर लो. So it's going to be product concentration. So it's going to be 0.2 plus x into 0.2 plus x, which is squared. And the reactants are H2 and CO2. So it's 0.5 minus x into 0.5 minus x. So that would be 0.5 minus x squared. And the value is 1.44. And you have to solve for x. ठीक है, ये मैं दोनों का स्क्रीनशॉट दे रहा हूँ. Make sure you try and solve this. I'm sending it on WhatsApp. हाँ जी.
तो पीछे वाली आप स्लाइड दिखा सकते हैं?
मैं इधर ही भेज रहा हूँ, एक सेकंड. ये
सर इनमें से कोई एक सॉल्व कर सकते हैं?
एक सेकंड में उस पर आ जाऊँ. ठीक है, वो ऊपर वाला जो पिछला है वो तो सॉल्व कर लिया था कि you just had to किधर गया? The previous one was ये. तो ये मुझे बता दो कि I mean this is x1 with positive 59 under root. And x2 would be 0.02 into 59. 59 under root has a negative value. So this would be minus. Divided by 2, 59 under root has a negative value. So 2 plus 59 under root ki bajaye, it's going to be 2 minus 59 under root. So bas try and figure out the values of x1 and x2. What are you getting for this? किसी ने किया ये? अच्छा. x1 is 0.0159. So this is and I think and x2 is 0.027. x2 है?
सर सेकंड स्टेप में जो हमारा x है वो किधर चला गया?
ये वाला स्टेप?
इससे ऊपर वाला.
तो वो मैं x59 रूट को मैं लेफ्ट साइड पे ले आया हूं ना, तो वो सारे x मैंने इकट्ठा कर लिया ना.
जी
ठीक है.
फिर अच्छा ठीक है सर.
अच्छा, बाकी ये कि बस ये वैल्यूज 0.0159 and 0.027 इनको जाके ना उसमें, तो आई थिंक 0.0159 would work, but 0.027 will not work क्योंकि if I use 0.027 I get a negative moles. 0.027, if you put it over here, 0.02 minus 0.027 would give you a negative value. So these moles cannot be negative. So one of these values is not going to work. 0.0159 will work. That would be fine. So use x is equal to 0.0159. Okay, then it's going to be positive value everywhere. Okay, is this clear?
Yes sir.
चलो ठीक है, let's कंटिन्यू फिर नेक्स्ट क्लास में कंटिन्यू करते हैं, ठीक है कल।
सर मैं आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछना था केमिकल बॉन्डिंग का।
मुझे मैसेज कर दो अभी,
ठीक है
मतलब वो पूछ लो, अभी पूछ लो, बस मुझे स्क्रीनशॉट या पूछ लो, क्वेश्चन
तो
पूछ
वो
लो।
क्वेश्चन नहीं है, मतलब वैसे ही मैंने